Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to announce this week's guest on the Shop Talk podcast. He is a coach, consultant, speaker, and educator. He's been in the property restoration space almost as long as I've been alive. He's the co-founder of the Alliance of Independent Restorers, and he is the founder of Restoration Advisors, where he's fulfilling his mission of eradicating restoration mediocrity and poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Klark Brown. This is Shop Talk, and I'm your host, Kevin Deline. I'm on a mission to build a world-class property restoration business. Join me as I interview leaders and entrepreneurs in the property restoration and insurance space to learn actionable insights on how they run their lives and their businesses. We also know how important the communities we serve are. We will be shedding a light on local entrepreneurs, community leaders, and rising stars in the greater Walworth County area. Well, thanks for coming on, Klark. I'm excited to talk about all things restoration with you.
Yeah, you bet.
So I had the opportunity to go to your class, the CADX class. Was that about a month and a half ago in Phoenix?
Probably about a month ago, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was my introduction to you, and so far I've learned a real lot, and that's why I'm excited to have you on the show. I want to just, help the audience, the restoration professionals out there that might be struggling with the nuances of this industry and help them find somebody like you to teach them what they don't know and, really a mentor to show them the path. So, with that, I would like to see if you can maybe tell everybody a little bit about you and your background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Kevin. The classes are always, I love teaching live, but also the secondary benefit is where they go next. It's usually that's the first step. And you meet someone, you build a relationship, you build a trust bridge, and it can lead to all kinds of places. So thanks for having me on. I love podcasts. I think it's a great format, and obviously very clearly there's a lot of people doing them, and they're really, really sinking into people for some longer content. But Kevin, I have been in the restoration space. This year in September will be 23 years. This is my second career. I am a kind of a career, what they call serial entrepreneur. I have owned businesses all through my life, including a lemonade stand, which I won't count because I was in the red on that one. I drank more than I sold, I think, of that. But I love freedom. I love independence. And I think that's what most entrepreneurs are drawn to. They're just not made to work for other people. They have dreams that they just want to realize. But I also love the service side. I love that if you pick a lane that you want to serve other people, then you have what I call a double bottom line, financial, and then the other bottom line is the fulfillment, the altruistic view of it. So I've been doing disaster restoration again for 23 years, sold a business, kind of like fell into this one through a mutual or a past client actually in my other business. And he said, "Hey, do you want to come do what we do?" And I said, "What is it you do?" He goes, "I don't know." And I said, "Sign me up." And, I immediately headed to Memphis, Tennessee, where downtown Memphis had a series of fires. And I went and started learning, and it many, many years of just that. I mean, starting over. And I think that's a real takeaway for people is you're never too experienced to be a learner. I had to, as a grown adult who had at that point 8 businesses, I was now faced with an uphill battle of learning a new trade, a new expertise. And I do want to be excellent. I want to get to a black belt level in whatever I do, if I can. And that means you have to humble yourself to be a servant. So I was lugging equipment. I was picking up supplies. I was trying to learn Spanish, talking to crews, you name it. I was getting pizzas for lunch for everyone, just for the opportunity to learn. So I started this business, and then just willing to do whatever it took, put me in new positions. And then I got better opportunities. And by 2005, when Katrina hit, I was in a pretty good trust position with the company I was working with, that they put me in a great position to learn a lot, but also make a lot of money to build towards my next bridge. Since then, I built and sold 2 restoration companies. One was all mine. One was with a partner. And, sold those out. And then I am sitting Kevin, I've sold another business. Now what do I want to do? That's just like the chapters of my life is what
Mhm.
next, what next, what next. And I was actually at breakfast with a good friend of mine, Rob, and he said, what do you really like? What do you want to get paid for? But you would almost do it for free. I said, teach, mentor, coach, whatever word we'd like to use there. I don't love consultant. there's a,
It's got a
there's a
juju around it, right?
it's got a lot of snake oil, and
Yeah.
honestly, our industry would look at a consultant as for a Fortune 100 company. So
Mhm.
I played college and high school baseball, and I love the word coach. Coach has meant a lot to me, and I've always seen myself as you coach someone through what they don't know to get what they do know. So I started this consulting business, this coaching business called Restoration Advisors. And we've done a few different things over the years, from helping people just one customer build a division to now helping a multitude of clients and restoration entrepreneurs. And we have an academy and we teach classes. So it really has, every year I've bought myself the ability to do something different. And then lastly, just authored some books. I'm just tipping my toes into what is it like to write a book, and I'm finding out, and I'm loving it. And let me go ahead and throw this in there at the end of the episode. We got a treat for everybody, so we'll throw that in there. But I just like you said it, eradicate restoration, poverty, and mediocrity. I think those two things. If you're mediocre, you probably will not elevate to the next level in this industry or any.
Yeah.
Our
Yep.
our industries are too saturated. So my goal has been on the business side, not the technical, how to dry or clean a building or those things. There are a lot of great educational tracks for those. And those are where a lot of people default, but where people shy away from that are trying to change lives and change a community and change their family tree is the business side, knowing your numbers, knowing how to hire A players, know when to let go, know when to. Those are the kinds of things that if someone's willing to say, I need to be better at that, then that's where I've been able to, with me and my team, been able to really show up and make a remarkable difference. And I'll continue to do that as long as I can.
That's awesome, and I think you're right. Too many people in our industry focus on the technical, the drying, the ISCRC certs, and nothing on the actually how to run a business, how to build a culture, and how to make a business that works for you, not the opposite way around. And so
Well,
kudos to you
I
for
mean,
attacking that.
our industry is blue collar. Let's don't take that away from. We are a blue collar industry. We work with our hands. We identify as hard workers, and the world has taught us hustle, grind equals money, and there is a lot of truth to that. You can't get where you want to
Mhm.
go without that. But there are other hustles, there are other grinds, and there are other muscles, the brain that you have to use. And but our industry gets really taught up into an identity of, if you're not in the field, if you don't have muddy boots, then you're not going to be successful. And I look around at some extremely successful companies that used to think that way, that now said, well, I'm going to balance what I know. I need to elevate, because that only gets me so far. And that's what most people hit, a ceiling of where that can take them. So just trying to disarm the ego and the pride to say, let's all learn what we don't know, because we all are just amateurs at everything.
Mhm.
And then see if someone out there in this ocean of humans might have a tip or a snippet or a one idea that could turn something that's been unachievable into unlocking several levels. And that's really the magic. And I know I'm talking about it really, but that's how I feel about it. It usually is not monster things. It's usually small things.
Yeah, I think that's the same way I treat reading books, right? It's like I don't need to know the whole book in and out. I just might be that one sentence that you get from there that kind of changes your whole perspective on things. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, same thing with coaching, right? It might be some of it you don't really implement, but it's that one thing that completely changes your business, right? And,
Yeah.
I was able to see a lot of that from your CADX course we did in Phoenix, not just from you, but from the business that we were at doing the course and the other restoration professionals that were there. You just, being in the right room can change a lot of perspective for people.
That's what I call it. I said it's not always the right class, it's the right table, it's the right
Hmm.
room. If you are with other people that are like you trying to learn, you usually see an abundance of generosity and collaboration. And those little, I always say, you learn a lot in the class, but you learn more in the halls and in between during coffee or Red Bull breaks or something like that. So that's what I love to watch from afar is clusters of people who later become friends, visit each other's businesses, and even sometimes join each other on projects and stuff. So
Hmm.
that's really
Well, and
like
it's,
the
yeah, you
extended
take down
version.
the ego because a lot of when you're at trade shows or things like that, everybody's kind of puffing their chest up, right? But you're in this classroom and people start to talk to you about their problems and what they're facing. And, at your class, we had people sharing documentation tips and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Just stuff that we don't normally do when we're seeing each other.
All different markets,
Yeah,
all
yeah, and that's very true.
different types of businesses, sizes of business. And you find out that we're all kind of the same. We have little nuanced differences that might be geographical, demographic, but you're like, wow, I'm just not the only, and it's just, there's something comforting to know that I'm not the only one. I'm in a tribe. And that's what I
Hmm.
usually call it is I'm in a tribe of people who want to see me succeed because I share an industry with them. And that's just
Hmm.
the cool collaborative part of it.
For sure. So I guess with your mission being to eradicate the mediocrity and poverty, how did we get to this point in the industry where we've had this? And was it from outside factors, or did we kind of do it to ourselves as an industry that we've kind of fallen into this hole, for lack of a better term?
Yeah. So I have a few theories, and some have been quasi proven, and some are still very just anecdotal. I would say one again, looking at where we came from as a blue. I mean, we're still a relatively our industry is new, Kevin. I mean, we
Hmm.
may be in our 2.5 generations in. We have some third generation people coming, but we evolved from cleaning and carpet cleaning. So we've got janitorial type of cleaning. They used to not dry and clean homes. They used to just tear them down and rebuild them. And then obviously we have, through the sciences and the practices, have shown that that's probably less, it's not productive and it's certainly not financially responsible. So we are still new and tiptoeing around. And I think that we have created a blue collar mindset that we are worth our time equals money.
Hmm.
We still bill time equals money. I think another big issue and something that I'm really part of on a industry wide national scale is we don't have any true regulation and licensing for our industry, and which means anyone can do it. Which is I love freedom, but there's also a lack of accountability for lack. I mean, what we do is important, and what we can do wrong can actually hurt people very badly, not financially as well as to their health and to their
Yeah.
livelihood. I think some of those things are, and then I think the other elephant in the room is there. We have a controlling factor which has driven our industry. Is big insurance.
Hmm.
Insurance, the industrial insurance revolution has been, and there was a period our industry had collaborative relationships with insurance companies. We were on programs. We were partners. That word partner was thrown around a lot post pre 10 years ago. And there truly were partnerships, and people built luxurious, incredible companies that provided probably a lot of the great leaders we have today came from companies that lived inside of an ecosystem where there was great financial, you made a good living. Well, that's
Hmm.
eroded over the years just because of commoditization, because of saturation and things like that. And those relationships continue to deteriorate through technologies of estimating softwares, of large organizational companies, large franchises, not against franchises, but franchises generally will make a relationship. Their relationships lie with a carrier of some sort and they see the carrier as that. And then I think that we have lost what I think the end user, Kevin, this will be my last piece of this. I think the end user, the customer, the client, some people call them the insured, which I don't treat people like they're an insurance policy. You either have it or you don't, but I'm treating you like a human
Yeah.
that hires someone for a service. I
You're my
think we have
customer.
lost a little bit of that focus on who is most important in this process, and we have not learned the experience level that we need to give to the trust that a customer needs to have of a service contractor that comes in their home. Our industry, as opposed to plumbing, HVAC, electrical, has kind of been this little side group that we file your insurance claim for you. We are an extension
Hmm.
of your policy problems or whatever it is. And I think that some brands have grown to a point like, the big ones are the Apple and the Chick-fil-A. People, it's not about the money or what those things cost. It's the experience. People will
Mhm.
pay for being treated like they're special. And our industry, the ones that do really, really well today, as we're recording this in 2025, make the customers feel like you hear me, you understand me, you're the right professional, you were who I hoped you would be when I dialed. And I think some of those things, having not had our eye on that and just chasing, trying to survive, we've been in survival mode as an industry for the last 10 years, collections, cash flow, growth,
Yep.
labor, staffing, young people coming up, in the working ages don't see blue collar jobs as a future, which I completely disagree. I think they can make way more doing this than coding.
Oh, for
Um,
sure. And it's
and
it's hard when you look at it. I mean, it's not every day's easy, not every day is glamorous, right? But it's
no,
fulfilling, and you
it
can make
is.
great money in it.
It's you got what do you got, middle of the night, you got weekends, and I can guarantee you a holiday you're going to be working, and none of
Yeah.
that's the world has told us that it's easy, and the world should be easy to us, but it's just not. And I think that there's two different groups. I think there's a certain growth of people, young men and women, who's had great parenting that said you can have everything in the world you want, but you first have to pay the price. You have to first
Yep.
earn it. It doesn't work the other way around. And those that weren't taught that were done a disservice severely. But I know a lot of really great young technicians that have started in the last 3 to 5 years with good companies that have elevated to maybe a project management position or even a production manager, and buying a first home, and buying that Raptor truck that they see on TV. And so they're like, wow, it's just hard work, but it's never so hard where it's not worth what I'm getting for it. And I think that's the kind of
Yeah,
conversations I'd like to see.
for sure. So I guess if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of break down the different sections of what you said and how we got to
Mhm,
this place as an industry. Uh,
mhm,
you know, there was a lot of nuance there, starting with just the kind of the mindset of the restorer, right?
yeah.
My time is worth what I'm billing out per hour, right? And maybe some different mindset shifts. So we'll start there and then maybe break down each one. But how do you think the average restorer can get out of that paradigm where we're looking at ourselves like an Xactimate line item, not as an entrepreneur or a restorer to say.
Well, it's again, it's value. And I have two examples, Kevin, I want to share with you, one real quick. Let me first tell you that a real aha moment for me, on the paradigm of value of what
Hmm.
someone's worth, not to themselves. And I think a lot of times we look at what we think we're worth. Terrible filter. We're not a good
Yeah.
judge of that. I have they're now older children. They're older sons from my first marriage. And I was over their shoulder when they were in their mid teens, and they were watching this guy on some app. I think it was called Twitch or Switch. I'm not sure, but he was playing some video game, streaming live, playing a video game. And I was like, you're watching a kid play
Yeah, and you're not playing the
Fortnite.
game.
You're watching him play Fortnite. And I'm like, what's up with that? He
Yeah.
goes, this kid's great. And I was like, that's great that he's great. And just the disconnect of what I would think would be fulfilling. And I said, what's up with this guy? He goes, Dad, you don't understand. His name is Ninja, and he charges $3 a month for subscribers. He's 17 and he has 600,000 people per month. Well,
Man, oh
I'm not
man.
a math genius, but I did some quick math and I was like, okay, I'm doing things wrong. If a 17-year-old in his parents' basement is banking 1.5 million in pretty much net free money,
Hmm.
he's got sponsors, he's playing with LeBron, he's playing with Kanye. And I'm like, okay, all of a sudden the time versus money thing didn't make a whole lot of sense. But then I think that also we rely on letting other people choose first what they think we're worth. And I think that's important. But when someone is price shopping, for us to have the ability to think of in the world of abundance versus scarcity, like
Hmm.
if you don't find a customer that values you, that wants to pay what you think you are worth. Now, whether you're worth it or not is a whole nother podcast.
Yeah,
I
that's
certainly think
a different conversation.
you need to validate that. But if you think you're worth X per hour or X per project, then you should you should test that out. And the proof is in, are you getting reviews? Or do you get referrals? Do other people consider you to be the expert in what you do? If none of that's happened, you are like everybody else. You are absolutely one of 600 cattle that are all brown with white spots out in the field, and no one knows the difference. You just happen to come up on Google that day. And that's not a strategy. It's a thing, and it's great, but you need to be more. And those that risk becoming better, risk charging more. And it is a risk to charge more. But when you stop saying, the old saying, Kevin, is,
excuse me. Sorry.
you can edit that out. Take what you think you're worth and double it. And you're probably still not right. It's amazing. I think the old adage about a water bottle, a Dasani or something like that, I can get it at Costco for $1.25, but what do I pay at the airport for it? $8.
Yep.
So it's a great example, but I think breaking that down. But as far as getting real specific for restoration, this is a model I think I may have shared with you guys in the class when we're talking about what we should charge and how we. If I wouldn't oversell what we do to a customer, I think you've got to like position it right. If you are in the restorative disaster restoration industry and you dry structures or you clean homes or something like that, I want you to look at what, in the absence of your specific service offering, if the flooring has to be removed, if all the drywall has to be taken out, if the kitchen has to be dismantled, what does it cost the insurance? What does it cost the homeowner? What does it cost in time? Do they have to move out? They don't have a kitchen. They have to live in a hotel. Their daughter and kids are in soccer and dance classes, and they're now staying in a rental house 45 minutes away because there's none. All of a sudden, what we're going to do for $8,500 will save you $35. And we all have the ability to show that business proposition. We can say, if we save this floor, there's 1,000 square feet of it, we're going to save you this. If we don't remove the cabinets, we can save you this. And I think that's where we start to say, well, we are worth what we are what we said we are. And as a coach, Kevin, I wouldn't say I'm really expensive. I'm certainly charging more than I ever thought as a human I would. But then it took me 10, 15, 30 clients that started making $1 million extra dollars off of what they learned off of my a few thousand. And then it's like a no-brainer. And I felt more comfortable. I felt more impassioned. And then, of course, I asked the question is, how can I provide more value? But I think those are some of the things when you start looking at what your value is, make sure you're worth it. Make sure other people think you're worth it. Don't be delusional. I think delusion and vision is important. But what am I doing that no one else is doing? Or what am I not doing that everyone else is? But can I convince a customer, not convince, but can I portray, we're going to do all these things here. You can hold me accountable. You can look at my reviews. So make sure you're getting reviews. And then you'd be amazed when I talk to people, Kevin, across this country as it comes to price and value. Average water damage in X place, $3,000, $3,500. And then in the same room, somebody's like, man, we're like $9,400. What are you doing different?
At CADX course, we heard about that, right? And it's just it can't be the economy in that area is demanding that much more. There's somebody charging that much more for a better value add for sure.
Yeah. And so which one's a crook and which one's a fool? I don't know. Maybe somewhere in the middle. But it really it begs the question to take a good look, and that's back to why I think knowing your numbers. What does it cost me to do this? Because some people are doing jobs that they're not making any money off of it, and they're wondering why they're so cash flow broke, and they're having to take any jobs just to keep going. But I think that's probably that mindset of, carpet cleaning used to be this much per square foot. I don't think we're in that economy anymore. I think we now say, I'm going to clean your carpet where you won't need anyone for a year as opposed to every 6 months. So if I'm a little bit more than the guy that comes every 6 months, but you don't need it again for a year, then
and we're not a commoditized industry anymore, right? So we can
separate ourselves. And it's gotten real easy with the internet to do that.
You give me 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a train coming through here. Sorry.
We're doing this. I want to make sure that echo cancel. Okay, perfect.
We're just making sure we had some audio stuff set up.
Now, I will say this: the logo in the back, because of how we're cut, is cut off. I didn't know if you wanted to be, if you can do anything.
Should I move it over more?
I don't know if that's important or
It's just
not.
the camera that he's looking at on my end with the full picture is.
Oh, he's saying on his, we're good.
Okay, good. So he can fix that in post editing.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
One more second. The train's coming through.
I'm not in restoration, and I am taking notes though. This is. I feel like I got a free coaching class.
He's going to start a business.
I hope so.
I mean, I did start a business.
No, I meant, yeah, restoration business. I
No,
apologize.
no. I'm no. You guys are great.
You think we're good, or should I wait more? That's
There's
a
none-
that's a car across the
yeah, that's-
street.
That's not going to be as that high whistle.
Okay.
So
All
you
right.
guys can keep rolling.
Do I no I have to hit anything, right?
No,
Okay. So no, I totally agree with you on on the pricing and really showing your value proposition to customers. I will say one of the most impactful moments I've had in my business was when we opened up our books to really my first couple of years. I was just trying to keep the door open, keep the lights on. We decided, hey, what we're going to charge is $55 an hour because that was more than I've ever charged in my previous businesses. And I was like, this is amazing. Everything I do, I get $55 an hour. This is great. Just coming to realize, I'm like, we're running all the time. The trucks are always on the road, and the bank account is just kind of like here or down or here, And come to find out, we really need to be charging closer to 70 and 80, and now it's 90 and 100, right? And so without taking the wherewithal to open up the books and do that math and come out with that equation, you don't know, right? And then to your point, also making your value proposition to your customer. Hey, if you pay us 10 grand now, we can save you 50 grand in 6 months of your life, and that's really where us as restorers can be that value add to those insureds.
Once you have developed a set of skills, you have to value yourself more. I used to charge much less, but now that I've learned what I've learned and I've been able to exhibit that, I'm inherently worth. But you get to a point as a business and start saying it's called scaling.
Mm-hmm.
I can't always just do more jobs because there's only so many hours during the day. I only have so many people. You can actually grow your overhead too much by bringing on too many people to do things at the same amount of work. So you don't necessarily always charge more. Sometimes scaling means my cost per job goes down, but you've got more people, your training upgrades, your equipment, the type of equipment and growth. But when you don't know your numbers, when you're not, and people avoid their numbers, Kevin. I know endless number of entrepreneurs that they avoid getting into them because they feel they're not great with them, and there's just a little bit of embarrassment there. It's I have to really do a lot of work as a coach to disarm this. I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm actually here to change your life around. And once we do it, once you've done it once, you're good. But it's getting through that first hurdle is, oh, wow, someone's about to know that I don't know my numbers and they're probably going to think something about me. No, I'm going to think you're probably like 75% of the blue collar world. Lots of people are great in the field and terrible in the office. And that's just how it is. I wouldn't have a career right now if that weren't the truth. People say, I'm not your kind of customer because I don't know my numbers. No, it's the opposite. You're exactly the kind of customer I need because I'll be able to see the difference. But knowing your numbers will help you keep up with what it costs me to run it. When costs go up, insurances go up, you're starting to see, prices, you have to give raises. Lots of people give raises to employees and don't raise their prices. Well, where do you think that goes? That chews right into your profit. And now you have to do more jobs to make equal money that you were to cover your overhead. So knowing your numbers gives you a lot of power. And it doesn't take, once you create some habits around your numbers and great, and just a P&L review is not enough. A P&L review is a lag effort. That's last month's numbers, sometimes a month and a half, depending on your CPA firm. You need we teach how to do weekly scorecards. You got some real quick hits. So take a look at some real important numbers, what's happening with cash flow ratios, leads coming in, conversions, those kinds of things matter. And then the P&L review starts to tell you some things at a higher level. So I've got the 10,000 foot, but I want to be around 1,000 so I can see in real time. So we can adjust before it's too late, or because we spend the next quarter trying to catch back up. We can solve all that.
I think the best 2 hours of my business has been when I did that first initial review and realized that, we were undervaluing ourselves. But so I encourage any contractor out there to go do a deep dive on your books. For me, it was finding our overhead per billable hour was a big paradigm shift for me. I don't know if that's what you would agree is a great metric, but it was just that was a kind of the shining moment of hey, $55 an hour is not cutting it anymore, and
No.
really kind of showed us that path to prosperity.
I love that, and I think that everyone should do it and find a way. And how do they do it? Is find a local coach or mentor, find a bookkeeper, and say, "I'd like to listen." I'm gonna give you another tip. Everyone listening to this should check out a book called "Markup and Profit" by Richard C. Stone. It's available on Kindle, hard paperback, whatever. It's a great contractor's guide that kind of breaks down a lot of formulas for service and trade businesses. I reference it all the time to people, but I think you do need, spend it once, hire someone. If you're part of a BNI, there's probably someone there in your BNI that does some of those kind of things. But don't be ashamed. You'll be one of millions that just need to be better at something, and that's just it. No one judges you, and no one will know. So
Yep.
I agree with you, Kevin, and I think that's a great pointer that you gave everybody.
Thank you. So, and then I guess the second point that you had was really the shift in our industry with the carriers, right? This going back to what the overarching issues in our industry are, and I agree the dynamic between carrier and restorer has gotten a little one sided and a little goofy, and I think some of it's self inflicted, but there's other outside pressures. So I want to
Yeah.
hear your take on that. What the current state is, but also if there's a path forward to kind of get back to some normalization of the relationship between contractor and carrier.
Well, I think you're right. I think that a lot of it's self-inflicted. And what I mean by that, and I'm sure you do, is for too long, a lot of our industry treated this like it was an open checkbook and just charging, it's hard to say what's fair and what's not because we just talked about value.
Yeah.
But I have reviewed claims and jobs of someone who for one room had 35 fans and charged.
And that's just
charged
it's greed,
3 times, 4 times too much. And the truth is, that's every industry. That's not relegated just to us or anyone that works with insurance. Everybody has that. That comes from that lack of. There's no license. Nobody gets in trouble for that. But is there a way to go back? I don't know the answer to that, Kevin. I'd like to be an optimist and think that there are ways that we can improve this. I think that a little bit of what myself and the other educators in the industry are trying to do is level the playing field with knowing and even knowing the game of the carrier. It's a chess match. They're not all adjusters and programs and TPA people are not nefarious little evil dudes sitting there. I'm going to take Kevin's money. I'm going to take Klark's money. They're just part of a larger, big, huge, complex industrial system that has shareholders, they have KPIs, and they have spreadsheets, and they have metrics that they're driving at. And to achieve those, they're doing what we should do is they're finding processes that drive towards outcomes that are in their favor. The great book, Delay Do Not Defend, is one of them. Putting people into programs and on Xactimate, which argue if you want, some people say they do fine. I think a lot of people say they do fine with Xactimate, don't know their numbers, and they're accepting it because it feels like great work. But by and large, on a big scale, that's not great. But I think we still, no matter what, we need to be professional. We may feel as individual contractors, a lot of times when you say you aren't going to pay us or your customer says, my insurance says you're a crook. I go back to that first segment we had. We identify with what we do. This makes up our persona. This is my being.
You take it to heart.
And when you say it's personal. And then you go into a fight or flight mode. You're like, well, I'm gonna get you back. I'm gonna say bad things. I'm gonna turn into an emotional mess. And you really have a customer, an end user who's like, I really would like to see someone rise above and handle this professionally. Like maybe one of you is right and one's wrong. But if we turn into slurs and walking away from any kind of conversations, is it great? Now, there are some things I won't negotiate on. I'm a big fan of onboarding your customer and substantiating your prices, your unit prices, as well as the scope and a total number. We call that a ROM. I think if I do that in the front end and set that into a contract and not work authorization, I can essentially remove the negotiation of what I charge at that point. We can talk about other things. The adjuster doesn't agree that my photos were good enough. We can talk about that. But they say you charge too much, and said that's off the table. The customer and I already made an agreement on this. I started this job with good faith that this is the rates I was working at, just like a plumber, just like an HVAC company. That puts you in a stronger position to not be the bad guy. But I don't know that relation. I'm certainly a opponent of people joining TPAs and programs, because you have a TPA, which is a third party, for anyone listening, a third party agency that is hired by the carrier to take a look at Kevin's projects from afar, from maybe 7 states away in Lincoln, Nebraska, using his pictures to put a value on that job, having never set foot on there, or possibly having never been to an ICRC or a technical class, and trying to delegate what the carrier suggested amount should pay. That really is, that just doesn't, I mean, from people outside of our industry, they're like, that really happens? There's no way that happens. It does every single day.
You've already done the work. It's in receivables.
60 days, 45 days, month.
Yeah.
And then it turns into, we're sending the customer, 40% of what your invoice was, not an estimate, an invoice. You invoice the customer for services. And that starts a wildfire of frustration, emotion, fear. Fear begots erratic behavior. It makes the owners and the employees start to do, you'll start, and Kevin, the worst part in our industry is sometimes this situation causes people to step into being fraudulent, start fluffing their jobs. Yep. I'll show them, I'll mark it up 30% because I know they're going to, that's not the answer. 2 wrongs don't make a right. But that's where that hamster wheel begins. I do believe in trust and transparency. I believe in integrity. And if I can tell the customer that there's some games going on, but what I do know is that I'm billing you for only what I did. And I'm billing the same rates, if that's true, that everybody in the community pays. You can look at, we haven't changed our price list for 14 months. Yeah. That's the same rate. So I'm not a crook. I'm just charging what it costs for us to do that. And I thought we kind of laid it out, but it really gets emotional, especially when, you're putting payroll on credit cards and you don't have, you've got a truck that's broken down, you can't get it fixed. All those kind of things just turn into fear, which turn into anger, which turn into frustration. And then kind of like
the guy on TikTok who's smashing up a shower he just tiled when he wasn't getting paid. You ever seen that? It's like, right. Don't be that guy.
Right. And honestly, cussing out an adjuster that lives in your market, you know what? Guess what? You're going to have to work with that person, that woman or man.
100%.
As long as they're employed there.
And they're just doing a job.
You might be mad,
that's the thing,
but think of the power to be calm. Think of the power to say, well, we completely don't agree with this. And I'm not willing to, we're kind of at an impasse. I hear you. You have your own belief, and adjusters think that contractors are crooks. They're told that. They're taught that in class. Look at that guy's big truck. He must be ripping people off. Those are the kinds of narratives they have. And I respect and understand their perspective. They don't know your overhead, Kevin. No adjuster knows what it costs you to crank up and turn on the lights every month for your business. So I give them that grace and mercy. I'm not going to let my customers think that they hired someone who was an erratic TikTok busting up a shower place. And then I certainly don't want to do that in front of my employees. As an owner, you have an obligation. You want to show them that you are the leader you say you are, and that the core values on your walls in your office say you are. So,
yep. Well, I hope that conversations like this and many that I know you've had can help move that needle forward, right? And have the cooler heads prevail, and just encourage the transparency in our industry, because that's the biggest thing. Is if we're transparent with what we charge, and it's an honest rate, it's not anything greedy. I think that's the solution, at least on our end. There's external factors, but as the individual contractors, I think that's about what we can do.
Well, Kevin, let me throw one more. I love metaphors. I love examples. I'll throw this real quick. Let's say you are doing a reconstruction project, and I don't know if you actually do with your firm, but you're going to have subcontractors. You might have a tile guy, a flooring guy. If you don't work out some pricing and some base rates and some expectations in the beginning, and they just hand you an invoice that's twice, three times what you billed for, what you were expecting, you can expect some issues. And so
Mhm.
we're not any different. The same thing about I take my truck to a mechanic, and it costs 185 an hour for my diesel to be worked on. And then I just
Mhm.
go somewhere. All of a sudden, because it's a Thursday, he wants to charge me 280 and we didn't talk about it. I'm going to feel a little like I didn't have a choice. And those are some of the reasons. And now we can argue about the carriers aren't part of our contract, but they're part of your customer's world. And we can't refute that. They're part of how the customer is going to get reimbursed to pay you. Most customers don't have $20,000 sitting in the bank anymore.
Yeah.
Very few people do in this economy, but we have to understand, and those that do it really, really well don't fight that. They do sometimes, but it's not as bad as someone who says, I'm not giving you anything. You don't work for me. I don't work for you, blah, blah. That's not the approach. I do advocate saying limit your negotiation, but do it on the front end to where you don't have to. That's usually the preface to that conversation that gets
And be
mistaken.
synergistic. You don't necessarily need to work for them, but help them do their job, right? It's just they
Yeah,
have a job to
they're
do,
part of the
and they're
claim.
going to be part of the claim. Yeah, exactly.
They're part of the claim. They're
Yeah.
just there's no way around it. They're a very important part. And to your customer, they're extremely important to the thing. And the customer would, and so your customer is the one that's going to help you get paid or not help you get paid. So if you can get them on your side, show them, prove them, show them the receipts that you did what you did. It's much easier. The
Yeah.
ones that I see have a hard time or not. So that's what I would say is we can do our part, but never, ever, ever match the frustration you have with actions because you're just giving ammunition to if you want to consider them an opponent, but the other side will say, wow, they're being kind of erratic. And they're acting just like I thought they would. Don't
Yeah.
give anybody the pleasure.
Don't let them win.
Don't let them win. Don't let them see you sweat.
Yeah. Well, I guess moving on from our, state of the industry, I guess, one of the things I did want to talk to you about was your Cat X program, which is part of your restoration advisors business. I
Yeah.
will say it came to me at it was just one of those times where I'm like, somebody was in my head because I was thinking about learning, how to get more into commercial work and not necessarily large loss, but just commercial work and how to open that, section of our business. And I open up LinkedIn and I see Clark Brown, Cat X, right? And it was like, light bulb, I'm going to that
Yeah.
class. And so I wanted to, have you kind of give everybody an overview of what that was. Because for me, it was so valuable. Not only did have somebody talk about the business side of things, because it's not a drawing class, right? It's a strategy class. And then being so niche in what you were teaching, I thought was very valuable.
Yeah. Commercial is definitely over the span of my career was by and far most all of what I did. And commercial just means, for those listening, a business and not a home. We still have humans on the other end, but there's an entirely different type of policy sometimes, and definitely not the sentimental, but we need to get back open. This is the way that all my employees make money, and we're out of work, or we've lost some product, or we're losing market share. People are passing us and going down the street. So commercial is my background, and I just find, and you said it just best, we're not talking large loss. People kind of put those two into the same
They're very
category,
different.
and that can be very daunting and very, well, I'm not ready for that. And then I can't afford to do $1 million job right now. Commercial just could be a small Verizon wireless store. It could be a nursing home, an assisted living home. It could be a small hotel, your local restaurant. It happens it happens more than you ever know. It could be a multifamily. A lot of people love that. But there are some nuances on how you sell those jobs, pre-sell them, relationships with people, how you're presented in your marketing, that we handle those, because those customers don't think like homeowners. They want to know that someone that knows how to do commercial. If you're just the same way, again, back to our people. If we have a plumbing company that we use that just does residential, and then I have a large, complicated commercial plumbing job, I'm going to probably look for someone that has some heavier mechanical aptitude. The same with the electrician. They're not the
Yeah.
same people. So you have to position yourself in your marketing and your website and your branding, your conversations on social, that yes, we have components of our company that does that to a certain point. And then just the billing is different. The carrier's expectations are different. So it's all the pulling back the curtain for me was what I wanted to do, Kevin, is it's not as hard as people think, but it does take different tools. It does take different approaches and mindsets. It's a different process. You're putting on a different cape when you go to do that job. And it has been, I've launched CatX as a true actual training at the beginning of this year in 2025. And I've had 2 live classes. A few people have gone on to work with us. I think, Kevin, those listening, you started a chat group. Everyone's on a text group. And one of our attendees out in California signed a $5 million fire. Now, it might not be directly related to CatX. He might not have said, hey, I'm going to go back and get this kind of work. I think it was already a relationship they had, but their approach and how they started it, he told me, he called me and said, man, we communicated in this way. And they said, wow, no one's ever done that with us. No one's ever asked us how we want to communicate, how often, when, where. And he said, this startup of this project, which is the most important part of a big scale project, he goes, the startup has been far easier on us, and I think far better for them. And that's a win for me. He's like, okay, that he was able to apply something. So the CatX is that. It doesn't mean you're going to walk away knowing how to sign up $6 million this year. But I'm going to remind you that everyone listening, you know people in your market that could refer you to some commercial work, but they don't know that you do commercial work. They see you as
you got to let people know, right?
You got to tell them, you know, they people don't know what they don't, they aren't mind readers. There's no crystal ball. So positioning yourself, knowing how to say it and be of value and of service was what I hoped a lot of people, and some people have gone back and they said, hey, I realized I have to clean up some I don't have the people to do that, because it does take certain management skills when you scale to a 20-person crew versus 2 people on a job. So some people have said, I've got some homework to do, but now I know my next 3 steps, my next 5 steps. So it's been real fun. It's been low key. The class was a dozen people, maybe. These are small, intimate classes, lots of room for questions.
We learned a lot from each other too. That was the thing. And you know, not to take away from the class, because that was extremely valuable, but to all be in a group where it wasn't so big that you couldn't communicate with each other. And we're talking, how do you plan on going back and implementing that? And, you know, getting tips from each other, that was exponentially valuable as well, you know, as well as
I think
the facility that we were at.
I was going to say the class that we had that you attended was unique, and it was at a facility of a commercial only restoration company, not a monster, not one that anyone's heard of, but a very, very low key doing a dozen or 15 million a year in commercial only work. And he opened up his business and his strategies to anyone. And I think that is probably one of the most valuable things that a lot of people took away, was to see an example of it. And it goes away from the theoretical to a practical, like that's actually happening. Yep. That's what it looks like.
I could actually do this and get that outcome, right? And that was what was really cool about it.
I am like him. I'm like the leader of that company was in the front, and he's like, we're not so different. It looks like we put on the same boots. We drive the same truck. I could do this. And that's what I wanted. That's why I bring in the inspiring part. I like to inspire people with examples and just kind of demystify the lies we tell ourselves about it's not for me. It is for you, if you want it bad enough. So you are fortunate to be in a class, and I've got another one in the fall that I'm going to be doing at another big company, and I'm hoping for the same feel and culture of that.
Yeah, I recommend it to anybody out there listening that wants to start to get into the commercial side of things. And like we said, not large loss, just commercial work. It was extremely valuable. You know, anybody can learn how to dry out the property, but this was more, how do these projects work from a logistical standpoint, relationships, and that's the stuff that we don't have enough education for. You know, you could learn how to dry a house until your brain melts, right? But nobody teaches you that internal, you know, accounting and relational stuff that nobody talks about, you know. So.
Yeah, you're using the same equipment. Most of these commercial buildings have drywall. Most of them don't even have wood stud. They have metal. So the technical drying, that's not the part that's tricky. Now you can get into a larger scale with different types of equipment, but there's experts for that. But it's like you said, it's how do I communicate multiple parties and stakeholders, multiple tenants? Those are what makes these jobs really, really pull your hair out and get, you start losing money. lose track of what you're billing for, forget to communicate and expectations. Your own team burns out. All those
Yep.
little nuances that happen when things start moving fast and hard. So,
Yep, for sure. Moving on, what else does Restoration Advisors do for the audience? So if they want to work with you, what do you guys all provide besides the CADX program?
well, we are a community-based coaching firm. Everything we do is based off of we build the community first. I have had incredible fortune of being part of a lot of big movements and organizations in this industry. You mentioned one of them. Myself and a few other people started the Restoration Rebels. I think it has a different name now. But the Restoration Rebels at the time that we started we did not know what we were doing. We just started a group and called it Rebels for a very funny reason. It's very tongue in cheek from Jedi's, Star Wars, the Rebels. But it moved the needle on a few different things. It also created a big community. But our coaching now has evolved to, we've always done events. I like events like the ones we did, some much larger, depending on what we're doing. But we have an academy that I've built. Now, one day I want to build a brick and mortar academy like REITs or one of the other academies, but based on soft skills, growing people, growing junior leaders and owners into a workshop to know your numbers. But I want a specific building for that. But I've got to baby step it first. So we have now Restoration Business Academy. I'm going to leave a link. Everyone you can join for free for the community and some access to some of the education. But I want everyone to idealize what we are designing is you're walking into a building and there are all these halls and lecture rooms where over here we're learning about culture, over here leadership, over here knowing your numbers and drawing. Like we're not teaching, technical CRC classes, but we might say we taught a great workshop about stabilization. I think every restoration company should understand the obligation you have to put a job in the stabilization mode while you do environmental testing. That little course that we taught by itself probably is making everyone an extra 2,000 or 3,000 legitimately on every job by following the laws and OSHA standards. OSHA laws and ICR standards. But it's also just a community. It's a place off of Facebook where it's not this judgmental, I'm going to attack you because you asked a question that should have been asked in year one. None of that exists there. It's really become a cultural thing. We've got 600-700 people there now, but all of our courses are there. We have a lot of courses that we've created that solve specific issues, either for brand new restorers when they don't know what the first 20 steps are. This little guide helps you with those simple. Think about this. You don't need the fanciest website in the world. You just need one that says what you do. Don't spend 20 grand on a website. You need that 20 grand for marketing and building a team. But these are little practical things. And then this on up, and then there's access to our coaches through there. Now we still have phone calls. I'm going today to an onsite, but this is our central hub. You come to the academy, you learn. You're part of a campus. You're walking around. We don't have a chow hall yet, so you got to bring your own food. But we start everything, Kevin, on community because what we want is we want like-minded people together because that makes learning easier. It also gives us a feeding ground for what people are struggling with because they're saying it out loud, and we can build services and products and solutions around that. So that's one thing we do. We have a lot of clients on different levels. We have some really large clients, not large companies, but they're on a very aggressive track saying, I'm trying to scale pretty quickly. I have a multitude of issues. And we have some that are just like, we have several clients that we're on just retainer. I need a coach on call. I need someone I can call when I'm having a claim I'm having a problem with, an employee issue, or I don't know where to get this, the best deal. So all kinds of little things like that. And then lastly, I think what I love to talk about a lot, Kevin, and I talk to you guys, it's coming up week after next, is we have an annual business retreat in Montana. So everyone goes to the beach. Everyone does retreats at the beach. And listen, toes in the sand are great, but oxygen in the lungs. We do retreats that are very small, about 30 entrepreneurs. They go to Montana for a couple of days, and we have sometimes a heavy agenda, and sometimes just this year is about clarity and reset. we went through a rough year and a half, and we're going through some really rough stuff in our industry of trying to figure out where to go next. We're going to have a small group of people. It's mingled with good food, good liquor if you want, cigars, hikes. We're going to rent a boat and go out on the lake. It's truly a retreat to kind of come back home refreshed. And if you've never been to Montana, you could go there and do nothing and have an incredible time. But that's coming up. I know we still have some seats left, and it's last minute, but we're in the last minute industry. I mean, you'd be amazed.
Yeah, we're used to taking that phone call on the.
We had people walk into our CADX class that bought the tickets the morning of. So
we're literally, I can attest to that. We're sitting in there, we're getting the agenda started, and a guy walks in. I just bought this. Can I still get in? I'm like, okay.
I'm from Chicago. He flew into Chicago to Phoenix. So
what happens if we were full?
Nothing surprises me anymore, but that's our coaching is a little different. And I love different. I'm always looking for the next, not to be different, to be different, but to stand out, but to really be not afraid. Some people are afraid to be different because there's comfort in sameness. A lot of coaches, I wear t-shirts. Sometimes I'll dress up, but I don't feel like I need to dress up in a shirt and tie to talk to on the tailgate to a restore. So I do things different. I'm going to be comfortable. I'm going to be in the field with you, and I go to job sites and I put up containment with people. And if that's what's needed, it's not a good use of time, but I'm the most expensive containment guy you'll ever need. But if that's what we need that day, yeah, do a good job. But the community is what we want. And we looked at all of our reviews, Kevin, and I'm going to turn it back over to you. We did a thing where we took all of our reviews over all the years and kind of put them into this little program app, and it spit out some common words that kept being repeated. I think that's important for everyone to do. What makes us special to people? And the words were authentic was the number one. That came up 11 times out of a few hundred reviews. Authentic. And of course, what does authentic mean? Just not trying to be a character, not trying to be somebody you're not, just trying to be someone who I trust you. I need a result. Not trying to be the hero. I think we make the customers the hero, and we're the guide. We're just the guide to help you through it. So we really focus on that and being immersive, not trying to make every business onto a program that we have, putting everybody into a box saying this is how a business is supposed to run. You know how business is supposed to run? Other than some fundamentals, however the heck you want it to run. It's your baby. You can be anything you want. And I think those kind of constrictive programs of saying everyone should be the same kills innovation, and the customers see it. So I'm a big fan of what do you want? What does Kevin want personally and professionally as a goal? And then let's reverse engineer, saying what has to happen and what does your market desire and what doesn't exist.
Well, and that's how you give a business DNA. Otherwise, we'd all just be the same boots on the ground.
It's the worst. It's the worst. It really is. You get all these spam calls from companies that are reading from the same script, and you're like, I'm not borrowing any money from you. You're robo dialing. It's just there's no pulse there. And I think people like to buy from people that'll like them and understand them really quick.
100%. So as we get into kind of the end here, I have a new thing we're going to be doing. We're going to be asking everybody 3 unique questions to you to get your, perspective on it. But before we do that, I also wanted to talk on your 2 books. I know you got 41 Markers and is it Fork in the Road, right? I started reading Fork in the Road 2 days ago, enjoying it very much. And then I look forward to reading 41 when I'm done. But you want to shed a little light on that journey for you?
Yeah. So authoring a book, my parents aren't here anymore, and they have been gone for a very long time. I come from a very small East Texas town, and I know I make fun of it. I'm not trying to insult those that are from East Texas with me. But the idea of writing and authoring a published book wasn't something that was ever on my roadmap. But 2 years ago, I've always had what's called markers. Markers are guiding principles, Kevin, I'm a big believer in stating what you stand for and standing what you state, to announce who we are, what we do, and then example it. And I had these markers, and I took the entire month of December off in 2023, just as, it's a sabbatical. I do that every couple of years. And I got bored, like I always do. And my co-author for that book, Jocelyn, is our marketing strategist. She goes, Klark, have you ever thought of turning that into something like publishable, like a PDF or something like that. And I said, why? She goes, because I end up finding myself using your markers in our conversations, or it's on our website. People read them back to us. She goes, I think that would be a great book. And I said, okay, well, I looked real quick. And by the way, self-publishing a book in 2023 or 2025 is
Very easy,
not
right?
hard anymore. It's crazy easy. So I wrote 41 markers, and it's just an extension. I took every marker, and they are things that are like, I don't believe in FOMO, fear of missing out. I believe in JOMO, joy of missing out. I'm real big on not being distracted by things that have no real value. People can get lost for days or weeks going down a rabbit hole that has nothing to do with where they're trying to go. I'm a big focus guy. I also believe in not trying to focus on years in your life, but the life in your years. I'm real big intentional on making the experience of what I'm doing now and today. Don't have a bucket list. So these are some of the markers, but also from a business standpoint, who we want to work with and who we don't, what burns us out, what fires us up. So that was our first book. It was fun to write. I still get astonished that people come across, and I've given away way more than we've sold. It's, you don't make money off of books, Kevin. I mean, unless you're Stephen King or Daniel Steele or Michael Crichton.
Well, it brings you, makes you a value add to people that hopefully come to you, right? They
it's
know that you're
something.
the
It's
deal.
it's a business card. It's a credibility, and that's what we were told. So a fork in the road is much different. A fork in the road is a fable. I was looking for a way, and it took me 2 years, but how could I put myself in a position to where I write using fictional characters about a set of difficulties, and some that we've mentioned here today. I built the businesses, as a character, there's a group of characters in this book, and they are all of us. And it's been true, is I wanted people to read the book, see themselves in the book without feeling judged, and like it was about them, but they were witnessing it from a third person party. And then seeing some of the steps taken in the book, real simple, nothing hard, nothing difficult, probably nothing you haven't thought of before. And then at the end with a optimistic result, which gives people hope. And that was the goal. And the reviews that have come in a week and a half that I've published it and given away a lot of copies have been just that. People said, Clark, this doesn't apply to restoration. This, while it's a storyline, it could apply to any business or anybody who has a dream, who gets stuck in believing they can't do it, and et cetera. So I can't wait to see where it goes, Kevin. I have no real huge expectations. I just know that there are also 8 more to 9 more books in the series that take different turns. Some of the characters reappear. It's going to be a whole universe of characters. It's just a fun project that I have earned to build this business. I've earned the right to go explore doing these new things that might deliver in new ways. And that to me is what I always wanted to do, was build a business. My team doesn't rely on me daily. I kind of can disappear for a week at a time. And I think that's the dream, but they need me, but I'm not part of any one task or activity. And they actually do better without me. And so I can go write a book, I can go teach a class, and then bring back new criteria, new teaching, new learning, new examples, new feedback that helps us optimize. And that's been a real good cycle for me. And that's what the book's been so far.
Yeah,
I want to give everybody here today listening a free copy. I'm going to give everybody, Kevin, I'm going to give you a link to put in the description of this, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
It's a PDF. It's a download. If you like a physical book, if you're a person that likes a physical book and you want it in your hand, that's on Amazon, or it's on our website. You can buy it from there. If you want a Kindle, I will have an Audible later in the summer. I just haven't slowed down to record. I'm going to narrate it. I couldn't get Morgan Freeman to do it, so I'm going to do it myself.
But no, I'm only like 20 pages in, but I've enjoyed it greatly so far. So yeah, please provide that link.
It's a short book, right? It's like 100 pages,
and it's an easy read. It's not like it's
an easy
dense.
Read.
Yeah.
No,
so
I've got recommend. The spacing. Most people have said they read it on an airplane from stop to stop, and they didn't put it down, and they left with self-inflicting. So it's been fun, and I think those are the kinds of little things that I want everyone here just watching. Maybe you have a book in you. Don't be afraid to write it. If you have something to say, because I will give you this last piece, Kevin, on this. Writing the book and now writing the 8 more, it's opened up a floodgate. it's me getting to relearn. There is a benefit of me opening up something that's not for myself as much, and it just opened up opportunities and possibilities that I now can see the roadmap for the next 7 or 8 years for our company through some of these things, and they could be live workshops or not. So I think anything you're doing is a step to the next thing you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, great work. As we wrap up here, like I said, I want to do the 3 questions. We craft 3 questions for each guest to get your perspective on things. So if you're ready, we'll get into them.
Let's go.
So what's one piece of advice you'd give a young entrepreneur entering this industry this year? If you had to boil it down to one piece.
One piece of advice of a new entrepreneur. Well, AI is not going to save you. There is a growing. If we're talking very, very current and relevant in 2025, there's a lot of people who thinking that all these gurus saying AI is going to fix everything. It's not. It's a powerful tool. But I'm watching a lot of people sink a lot of their time into it for no return other than the next big thing. So that's very relevant and specific to today. But for today, the older ways, some parts of it, some variations still work, and you're still going to have to do the work. But AI is not going to save you. It can be a tool, use it for what it's meant for, but not to replace everybody else in your business. And that's what I'm seeing happening a little bit. It's a little offsetting to watch people replace staff with AI. Maybe it works. Maybe I'm the old timer and it works out, Kevin. But I think it's.
I do. I think you can. That's where you start to lose a little bit of the human touch,
the culture
of some of these businesses.
Customers don't want to be AI treated. They really don't. Very, very young people don't mind, but people that own homes that we might be serving, they still want humans. That's just a fact.
Okay. Question number 2. If you could go back and relive one project, which would it be and why? And this is back from your days in the field.
That's a tough one. Well, I had some that were extremely, I'm going to go with the positive. I had some that were extremely fulfilling. And I learned a lot. So I did a job in, Baghdad. I did a big project, and not big, relatively large project in Baghdad. But I wanted to take the opportunity to take a few junior PMs with me, way more than we needed, but I wanted them to have the experience of that. Cause we traveled internationally a lot. And, the takeaway, the intentional ramp up and what we did while we were there, and then the debrief after, was very, very one of the highlights of my career, to have these PMs report back to me with what it meant and what they're going to do different and what they learned. So that one kind of stands out to me. Lots of great jobs, lots of them, lots of big jobs that were simple and lots of small jobs that were difficult. I could list those all, but you just never know any given Sunday. But that's one job in
cleanup,
Baghdad.
I'm assuming, military work.
It was a mold for the DO. It was a big mold job at a lot of facilities for the DOD, and they were not having success with they had a contractor over there, construction company they weren't passing clearances. And believe it or not, the health of their employees and staff, civilian and enlisted, is very important to them, and they weren't achieving the levels they needed. So they, it's funny, Kevin. They asked me for a price for that. It was a 3.5 week project, and I gave a number, and they almost instantly said yes. And I was like, I should have been double.
That's how you know you were a little low, right? When the answer's a little too quick.
But that was one job specifically, and there's probably 100 more. But that one job stands out that I would like to feel what I felt again from the empowerment from that job. Awesome.
All right, last one. What does success look like to you at this stage of your life and career?
Freedom. Probably annoying amount of freedom. Buying back my time to do the things, knowing, and at my age, Kevin, anyone that's getting older will tell you, is when you start to have things go wrong that you don't know why they are, you start to realize your mortality. So for me to really get intentional about 3 years ago, and especially after COVID, I mean, how fragile is the world? For me to start building a business that gave me the opportunity to do explore anything. And I'm not talking about sit on the couch and watch Friends. I'm talking about go meet new people, start new things, let it fail and it not decimate you. You know, those kinds of things. The freedom to build and the freedom to fail if I want to, or freedom to do something that doesn't make money it's addictive. It's become I'm an addict for that, and annoyingly so. My team is like, there are certain days of the week, Kevin, my team doesn't reach me. They can't. They could, but I block off days of my week where it's just I'm on my time doing who knows what. Maybe it was writing the book, but it's not that I don't want to talk to my team. It's just that I like these big chunks of time to really explore stuff. So for me, success earlier in life, it was, you have to buy your way to get that. It's revenue, it's placement, it's positioning. But today it's freedom. But I went through all the other phases of learn, earn, and now it's return is my 3 phases of life. And everybody goes through that. But for me right now, it's what can I do that's going to outlive me?
I think you're certainly achieving that, right? You're being a voice for this industry and an advocate for all of us. So thank you for what you do.
Buddy. You're welcome. So thank you for saying that and asking that question.
Yeah. So, and then just closing out here, how can people get in contact with the services you provide, and where can they find you?
Yeah, restorationadvisors.com. I know you're going to have the link. It's ADVISERS. There are 2 ways to spell advisors. And we could not buy the domain name with the O. Someone already had it, but the ER is it's a true English version of it. I'm going to, again, I'm giving Kevin some ways. We do a lot of different things. We believe in like, know, and trust. I want you to get to know us first before you even think about maybe I'll call these guys. We have a podcast. We have a blog that we put out every week. We got all kinds of little things like that we do. And Kevin, I'm going to turn it around in a few months and get you on our podcast, Disaster Podcaster. We're in our 5th season, but we're going to give you some links to come over to the academy, dip your toes in, sit in the back of the room in some of the lecture halls and see what we're talking about. And then, get to know us, trust us. And then if you want to solve a certain part of your company, let's have that talk and see if it's a fit or not. We're not a fit for everyone. And I absolutely own that. But restorationadvisors.com is the way to go see our multitude of what we're up to. It's always something different. Usually look at the top. There's a banner for Montana right now that disappears next week. Probably be talking about what we'll be doing in the fall next. And that might be Switzerland. Who knows? But we just want to get to know everyone. And if we can't help you, we'll point you in the direction of some people we think could, or a resource that you could get free. I mean, that's what I think giving is not needing everyone to hire you. It's giving people the answers they need. And that just builds trust. And that reciprocity just works out to give me the freedom that I want.
Yeah. And I know you do what you're preaching right now, because that's what I felt in the course, right? It was just, I'm given with no expectation of anything in return, and it was refreshing. So thank you so much, Klark. I appreciate your time and
you're welcome.
Your leadership.
Well, I can't wait to keep watching your episodes and see the other people that show up, because I'm like you guys. I learn something every time I watch a piece of content. I intentionally take something away, write it down, and then I'll marinate on it for a couple of days. So keep doing what you're doing, showing up, exploring. One turn will take you to another one, but I appreciate you having me on. And if anybody wants to reach out, I'm always available for a 20, 30-minute phone call, text, whatever you want to do. Let's solve a problem or go deeper if you want to.
I like it. All right. Thanks, Klark.
All right, brother. Appreciate it.